Hi, how are you doing? This is IBM-i By Doing. Welcome to IBM-i By Doing, a series of video sessions in which we do hands-on projects programming the IBM-i Midrange computer. I'm Madhu Vasudevan with over 20 years of IBM-i work experience at your service. The target audience is newbie programmers who want to learn RPG4 or RPG ILE on IBM-i. I am working from a free Windows server offered by the AWS Cloud free tier. There is a link in this video's description to another of my videos on how you can sign up for the AWS free tier, launch a desktop and use it free for an entire year. But feel free to proceed with your personal laptop or desktop computer. Welcome to this hands-on session on Intro to the Source Entry Utility. First, we will start a session on Pub 400. Then we will create an RPGLE program to learn and document SEU. We will explore source entry utility features such as editing, setting session defaults, invoking command line, compiling, browsing the external members, browsing compiler output, modifying PDM defaults. Then we will call the created program. And finally, we will examine the program object. We have successfully started a session in the IBM-i system at pub400.com. Let's create an RPGLE program to learn and document SEU. Press F13, Shift plus F1 to set session defaults, which we should have done at the very beginning, which is usually done right away when you start your SEU session. So let's do it now. Better late than never. Shift F1. Let's change amount to role to half screen H and hit enter. Now if you press page up one more time, it is approximately showing you or moving the screen by halves. Move cursor, doesn't matter where the cursor is. Page down, another half screen. Page down, another half screen. Page up, another half screen, which is usually okay. But if you want more control over the scrolling up and scrolling down, like typically you want to place the cursor here and move the page up, place the cursor here and move the page up or down to where the cursor is. You want more control. You will press Shift F1 and say C to scroll with respect to the cursor. Page up, page down with respect to the cursor. So move cursor to line number 7 and do a page up. So line number 7 is on top. This is the behavior I prefer, so I keep it at that. It's up to you. You may just want to page up and page down half a screen at a time. You can even opt for full screen page up, page down, so that's personal preference. Let's press Shift F1 one more time. You can set the amount to roll to half or full screen or along with cursor as I have. You may want to restrict input to uppercase, in which case you will put a Y here. F12 to revert back to data entry mode. Let's document the Shift F1 options. Tab key to hit the numeric pane, number line pane, down arrow keys, tab over, column 7, key in. Let's document the 3 options or 3 lines after press F13. Shift plus F1 to set session defaults. First, set the amount to roll when you press the page up, page down keys to C for cursor. Next, ensure that uppercase input only option is set to N for no and press F12 to return to editing. Tab over to next line, right arrow keys, column 7, key in, press page down or page up key to scroll up or down the screen. This you've been doing all along, so page down, moves to where the cursor was, to the top of the screen. Page up key, let's do a page down again. Tab over. Column number 7, key in desired line number and then space and enter to bring up that line of code. So right now let's say line number 10 is not on screen, but if we want to go to line number 10 or bring it to the screen, tab over to line number, column, key in line number 10, space so that it is distinct from the number that was already in that spot, and hit enter. You are placed on line number 10 and the rest of the page is below. Page down, end of data, page up. Move cursor to line number, let's say 17, and press page down. Let's insert some lines. I10, space, enter, 10 more lines. Down arrows and right arrow, a space bar, hit enter. One more time. Page up arrow, tab over, down arrow, line number 17, column 7, key in. The only mouse operation that works is click and drag to highlight a code block. You can also press Ctrl C to copy the highlighted code and then Ctrl V at another spot to paste it in. Tab, go to line above. In my case it is 16.19. Press insert, enter, and 2 slashes, columns 7 and 8, and enter to give a logical break to the documentation at that point. Let's highlight. Page up key to scroll up. Ctrl C. You move the cursor and the arrow to where you want to paste and press Ctrl V. Press F5 to undo whatever was done until the previous enter. Down arrow keys, tab, right arrow, position to next line, column 7, and key in, which may then be copied with Ctrl C and pasted with Ctrl V, which we just tried. Tab over, tab, right arrow, next comment, 1 F5 to Ctrl Z them all. Mess up all over the screen and press F5. That's fun. Let's hit enter first, because that's what SEU is going to remember when you press F5. Move up arrow key, left arrow key, and then random key press, random key press. Spacebar, random key press, key press. Oops. Now you want to restore or refresh the screen. Before hitting enter, press F5. Having refreshed the screen to how it was before you messed it up, down arrow keys, right arrow key, key in. The caveat, function key 5 cannot undo after you pressed enter or even the page scroll keys. Tab over, tab, right arrow keys, next comment, a logical line break, key in a logical line break, and then press function key 14, shift plus F2 to find and change to capital AND. Occurrence to process 1 and enter. Find and replace. Let's try it. Press shift F2, find AND, tab over, change to AND. Capital letters. Arrow key down to occurrence to process 1 for only one next occurrence. Hit enter. Now press shift F4, that is F16. It says end of data reached, string not found. Press one more time so it does a wrap around and finds the first occurrence of AND in line number 4 and positions the cursor there. Press Shift F4 one more time. Next and is found in line number 5. Press Shift F4 one more time. So Shift F4 only finds the occurrence again and again. Let's move down to where we were earlier. Now press F17, that is Shift plus F5, to actually change small and to capital A and D. End of data reached, string not found. One more time, Shift F5, because we have set it to process only one change at a time. Shift F5 and the small and in line number 4 replaced with capital A and D. Shift F5 one more time. Small and in line number 5 replaced. One more time. Small and in line number 7 replaced, and so on. One more time and one more time. Notice that COMM A and D, small a and d, has been replaced with capital A and D. So now let's go back to where we were. Page down and one more page down and page up. Let's do a Shift plus F2, function key 14, and this time tab over to occurrence to process and set it to 2, which means all occurrences, and hit enter. Now press Shift F5, F17, and look, string A and D changed 15 times. So all over, look at the changed lines that have been highlighted in the line number column. Page up, page down. In each of these lines which have been highlighted, the small a and d has been replaced with capital A and D. Page down. So that makes our document not so readable. Let's revert the changes. Change all the capital A and D back to small a and d. Press Shift F2 again. Find capital A and D. Change to small a and d. Occurrence to process. All occurrences 2, and hit enter. Shift F5 to repeat the change. And the bottom message says capital A and D changed 15 times. Let's page up and re-inspect. Line number 4, the A and D is back to what it was, small a and d. Same way line number 5. And all the commands are in proper case, COMM small a and d's. Page down, page down. One little thing, the last line we changed, we want to find in our documentation small a and d and change to capital A and D. Hit enter. Note that all the changed lines are still showing changed. Press F5 to release all the changed markings. Enter. Let's go back to where we were and let's document these changes. Next input line, column 7, key in these 4-5 lines to document the find and replace functionality. By the way, these function keys are cryptically listed in blue highlight below. So press F14, Shift plus F2 to find and change to A and D, occurrences to process 1, and enter. And then if you press F16, that is Shift plus F4 repeatedly, you will keep finding next A and D's. Press F17, that is Shift plus F5 repeatedly to find next A and D, change to capital A and D one at a time. Next, you can press F14 or Shift F2 to find small a and d, change to capital A and D, and occurrences to process. If you set to 2 and hit enter, then with a single F17, that is Shift F5, you can find and replace all the small a and d's to capital A and D, all occurrences, one shot. You will find lines demarcated as changed in the line number column, which you can reset or refresh with an F5. You can try this out again and again just to get familiar. It's slightly different from probably what you are used to in the other modern editors. Tab over. From last input line, press page down, I10, space, enter, down arrow keys, a space in the last input line, hit enter, and you've got 10 more lines to work with. Position cursor to next input line, give a logical break, next input line, key in, press F24, Shift plus F12 to see more function key options in the bottom lines. So press Shift F12 and the bottom lines change to show you the different function keys available and their functionalities. One more time, Shift plus F12 and Shift plus F12. Hit enter, tab over, one more tab, right arrow keys, key in the 3 lines, press F21, Shift plus F9 to invoke command window and key in a command, DSPLIBL for instance, and hit enter. And then you can press F12 to return to command window and another F12 to return to SEU Editing. Let's try this. Shift F9. There's the command window in the bottom, and let's try a command. Any command will do. Something simple like a display library list, enter. So now you're inside the display library list command. Do whatever you need to do. F3 or F12 and another F12 to get out of command window and return to SEU Editing. Hit enter, tab over, down arrows. Next input line, column 7, key in these 4 lines. After typing line specification on column 6, that is either H or F or E or L or I or D or C or O for output specifications, briefly H-FELIDGO, press F4 and get prompt help to complete the line. You can press Tab or Shift Tab to move back and forth between the input fields once you are in the prompt mode. And also remember, field exit, that is the long plus key, is used to complete input in one field and tab over to the next. Let's try this. Tab, tab, column 6. Let's try these. Tab over, tab, right arrow, column 6. Let's key in a D for DSpec and take a prompt F4. Let's give a name, test_var, tab, tab, declaration type S for standalone, tab, tab, length, let's say 5, field exit, data type S for zoned, 2 decimal places, field exit, tab, comment, testing, DSpec, and hit enter. F11 to go back to the previous line prompting, another F11 to go back to previous line prompting, enter key to come to the next line prompting, F12 to release the prompt, page up key. In the last line you have keyed in a line of DSpec. Navigate to the same line, take an F4, press tab to flit from field to field, input column to input column, shift tab to go backwards, F12 to release the prompt, tab, arrow keys, field exit to blank out the entire spec line, up arrow, insert 10 more blank lines, enter, down arrow, key in some spaces, hit enter. We have commissioned 10 more lines of input. Key in the lines, press the home key at any time to get to the SEU command line on top, and then you can type save and enter to save the code to disk and continue editing. So let's try that. Press home key, type save, and hit enter. To keep us motivated to produce more of such high quality free content, please subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button below, leave a comment or 2, and share this video with your colleagues, friends, and other IBM-i fans. We will resume our RPGLE journey in the next video session. Again, hands-on. Until then, this is Madhu Vasudevan wishing you a very happy IBM-i by Doing. Stay tuned.